ladies and gentlemen and programmers, we're going to do part 5 for lesson 5. We're going to learn how to use a while loop. All right, so in your notes, I want you to brainstorm ways to automatically add 12 keys to the screen without having to write 12 lines of code. So write that down, and that's what part of your notes. At the top, make sure you put down the label using loops, the while loop. Okay, take these notes. A loop is a statement of programming language that can execute a section of code multiple times. So for example, if we look at the question above, if we want to add 12 keys, well, we could write the line of code one time that adds a key and then run that same code 12 times. That would be a loop. Okay. The next thing is a local variable. So we've used instance variables. Okay, so here's so a local variable, just like an instance variable, is like a box in the RAM that holds stuff, except for it is declared inside a method body. So for example, if this is a method, you say int I equals 0, so you're declaring it inside a method body, and it's used for temporary storage. So instead of this box lasting forever, it is temporary. It disappears after a while. Okay, so the next question is, what is the name of the local variable below? How is it different than an instance variable? Well, I will just tell you that since we're very new to this. So I is the name of the local variable. It stands for iteration, because we're going to go through, in this example, this loop is going to happen 100 times. So the first time through is the first iteration. The second time through is the second iteration, and so on and so forth. So I stands for iteration. All right, so what is the name of the local variable below? I. How is it different than an instance variable? Well, there's a few different things. So number one, it is declared inside a method body instead of at the top. Number two, it belongs to this statement, right? Whereas key and sound, which are instance variables, they actually belong to the object. Okay, so this belongs to the statement. Other difference is key and sound are going to last this guy's lifetime. So as long as this guy exists, these guys exist. This guy lasts from here to here, and as soon as we get through this method, it disappears. Okay? All right, so now we've talked about this int I here, but now let's talk about the while loop. So this is the form of a while loop. You start with your local variable, I. You normally set it to 0, and you say while I is less than 100. So this indicates how long it's going to happen. And then this thing right here that says statement, that's not really code. That's just where you'd actually put the code that you want to have happen over and over again. And then right here you have to increment your variable. So I is 0, so now I equals 0 plus 1. Now it's 1, and then it jumps back up here. Is 1 less than 100? Yes, it's going to do it. And then now I is 2, that's still less than 100, so on and so forth until you get all the way to 99, and then I equals 99 plus 1, that's 100. You pop back up here. 100 is not less than 100, so it's going to kick you out of your loop. So it's going to execute whatever code you want right here 100 times. Okay? All right, next. A while loop has the following form. We just looked at that. A loop has a local variable I that stands for iteration, or the number of times it's gone through the loop. Write that down in your notes. It usually starts at 0 and goes up by 1 each time. It doesn't have to, but this is typically what you're going to see is your iteration is going to start at 0 and it's going to get incremented, added 1 each time. All right, in the key class, write a method definition called play 10 times that will play the sound 10 times when the correct key is pressed on the keyboard. Do not erase or change the play method definition. Make sure that you call on the play 10 times method from your check key press method, and you will need to use this code to slow it down because it's going to go through the loop so fast. Instead of, you're just going to hear it go ding, but what's really happening is going ding, 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 ding so fast that but you only just hear it play once, so you have to slow it down. Okay? So try that. So we're going to use this form that I showed you, right? So you're going to write public void play 10 times, and then you're going to put this code, right? Except for you're going to change it. We don't want it to happen 100 times. We want it to happen how many times? 10. And then instead of a statement, what do we actually want to have happen? Well, we want it to play. And then this is the code that we're going to use to slow it down. Okay, so try that, see how that goes. All right, let's see if we can do it together here. Let's do this. Let's go into the key, And let's make this big. Okay, so of course we can't see it. All right, so we're going to go here. We have play. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so we're going to say public void play 10 times, and then we're going to start with our loop here. So we're going to say int I equals 0. We're going to say while, and while I is less than 10, we want it to happen 10 times. We're going to create our two brackets. And what do we want to have happen? We want it to play. And we're going to say dot delay. We want to slow it down. And then we have to increment I, so we can say I plus plus, or we can say I equals I plus 1. Okay? And we can get rid of this. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like. So when we come up here, when we go down to check key press, and instead of play, we're going to F8 this. Pressing the F8 key turns it into a comment, and we're going to change that to play 10 times. Okay, so let's try that and see what happens. Let's compile that and make sure everything is good. Okay, so we're going to hit run, and we're going to hit a key. And it's still going so fast we can't hear it playing a bunch of times. Let's see if we can figure out what's going on. Oh, I see what happened. If you look right here, I had it going all the way too fast, so let's try it again. So we're going to slow that down. Okay, so I press the key, and it plays 10 times. Okay, so we just did this. We added the method called play 10 times. Let's keep going. What will happen if you add times I here? So try that. See if you can figure out what it would do first. So in your notes, write down what you think it's going to do, and then let's do it. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I modified the code. All right, so I did this off screen. So times I. So let's figure out what's going to happen. So the first iteration through I is equal to 0. So what's 20 times 0 is 0. There's no delay. The next time through, I is equal to 1. 20 times 1 is 20. Next time through 20 times 2 is 40. Next time through 20 times 3 is 60. So what's going to happen is our delay is going to increase each time. Let's see what happens. Let's try it and see what happens. All right, starting to get super boring there, but you get the point. All right, change the method call back to play instead of play 10 times, but don't erase the play 10 times method, as I will be grading it later. So what that means is if you come over here, down here. If I come down here, I'm going to hit F8 on this, and then I'm going to hit F7 on this to bring it back, and now it'll go back. So you want to keep the play 10 times, as I'm going to grade. That's going to be part of the grading, so make sure you keep that. Okay, so we've learned a little bit about a loop, and now we're going to use the loop to add keys to the world. So we're going to turn off make white keys. We're going to create a new method definition in the piano world named make white keys with loop. Use the loop shown to add the keys to the world programmatically. All right, let's see what happens. So do this and answer these questions. So here's what I've got. So we have the make white keys that we already had. So I'm going to go ahead and F8 that. And we're going to add in this method called make white keys with loop. And this is the part of the constructor, just so you know. And then we've added this code, public void make white keys with loop. And there we go. So let's answer these questions here. what do you observe? Let's skip that one. How many times does our loop body execute? Well, if we have anytime you have 12 here and it's incrementing one time, this is going to happen 12 times. So 0 through 11, which is 12. Okay. What are the values of I during each of the executions? Well, the first iteration through, it's 0, then 1, then 2, then 3, all the way to 11. So 0 through 11. Okay, now let's see what we observe and what two strange things happen. So let's go back to our project here. And so it should have, so we have one key, right? And let's hit run. And, okay, it plays with the G key, but none of the other keys work. Only the G key works. So we've in some ways, we've moved ahead because we're using a loop, but in some ways we've gone backwards because now it only works with the G key again. And what happened to the 12 keys? Well, if I hit pause, you can see, well, they're all there, but we put them all on top of one another. Okay, so those are the strange things that happened. We placed all the keys on top of one another, and we're back to them all playing the same sound again. Okay, it looks like only one key was made, but they were on top of each other. How can you change your code so that the keys do not all appear at exactly the same place, but instead get placed exactly next to each other? And here's a hint. The key is 63 pixels wide. Here's another hint. That is the times symbol. So see if you can play around and see if you can figure that out on your own. What do we need to do to make sure that the keys are not on top of each other? You will need to figure out how to move each key to a different location on the x-axis. Each key is 63 pixels wide. Change your code so that the keys do not all appear at exactly the same place, but instead get placed exactly next to each other. Write the code to do this and use the time symbol. All right, so here is what it's going to look like, right? So try it, add this code in, see if you can get it to work, and then the best that you can answer these questions. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. First of all, just a couple of reminders in this code. Int I equals 0. You're declaring a local variable named I. So you're making a box in the RAM called I. It belongs to the make keys with loop method, and it's temporary. What's the value of I? The first iteration through the loop, int I equals 0, so the first time through is equal to 0. What is the value of I, the third iteration through the loop? Well, you're wanting to say 3, but it's 2, so the first time through it's 0, then it's 1, then it's 2. So 0, 1, 2, its value is 2 the next time through. Make sure you write that down in your notes. If each key is 63 pixels wide and I want to space each key exactly to the left of the previous one, what should I replace the 2 question marks with? Okay, let's take a look at that. So I wrote this code here. And, okay, hold on, we can't see it. There we go, so we can see it now. All right, so the first time through I want it just to be 54, right? And so, but the next time through I want it to be the width of the key, right? And so we know that each key is 63. So there it is right there at the corner there, 63. So what am I going to do? I'm going to change this to I times 63. Why am I going to do that? Because the first iteration through I is equal to 0. 0 times 63 is 0. So what's 54 plus 0? 54. So it's going to scooch it over 54. The next time through, I is 1. So it's going to be 54 plus 1 times 63, which is 63. The next time it's 2 times 63. So basically each time it's doubling 63. And now this right here, each key is 280 pixels tall, right? And so we want to find the center of that, so we divide it by 2. So let's take a look at it this way. So if the key is 180, we divide that by 2, we find the center, and so we're going to place it right there. Okay, so try that code right there and see what happens. It should work, but there's still a problem. What's the problem? And what would happen if you change change it to 12 or 5, you should be able to figure that out. What is going to happen? But what's the problem? Let's take a look at it and see what the problem is. Okay, I hit run. So we've got them spaced nicely for sure. If I hit run, what's the problem? They all play with the G key again. So we've solved one problem where we spaced them, but we're still back to that same old problem where they're all playing just the G key. Okay, so write these notes down. What's still not right about the project? All the keys still work with the G key. We're going to fix that problem later, so we're going to stick with this for now, and in the next unit we'll do the next chapter we'll do it. Okay, what does the while loop do? What does the I stand for? What does it do? How many times will the following loop run? This one's a little bit tricky because the I equals I plus 2. You're going to have to kind of work through that. So answer those questions, and that's it. So go ahead and go on to part